Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on our webinar titled Digitizing Your Service Delivery Model. My name is Scott Billows, and I am going to be moderating the webinar today. And a quick introduction to myself. I am the founder and CEO of Belmar Consulting. We are a Salesforce.org partner, and we specialize in working with nonprofit organizations who are on their digital transformation journey. I'm personally super excited about our webinar today, as the topics we're going to discuss are extremely relevant for nonprofits. Certainly in the time that we are in and the last year that we've navigated together, nonprofits are asking a lot of questions in terms of how they can serve their clients better, how they can achieve greater efficiencies, and how they can accelerate their services and the programs that they're offering. We're in for a treat today, as our guest has already achieved many of these attributes I just described. And before I introduce Terri, there's a couple of things that I want to make you aware of. First, we want to hear from you throughout this webinar, and we're using the Zoom platform, and down in the bottom navigation window, right along the bottom of your screen within your Zoom window, there will be a chat button. So if you have any questions for Terri, we are going to have a Q&A towards the end, and we'd love for you to post your questions there. The questions are going to be reviewed and moderated, and I will be asking Terri as many of the questions as possible towards the end. Secondly, for the best viewing experience, we're also used to Zoom now, so hopefully this is not new information, but in the top right-hand corner of your screen is a button, and you can select speaker view or speaker mode, and what that will do is just enlarge and highlight the speaker, so be it myself or Terri throughout this webinar. So go ahead and do that if you are looking to get rid of all the tiles and you want to just have a larger view of the speaker. Thirdly is we are having a raffle at the end. So we have two prizes that we are going to give as gifts. We have swag packages that we're going to send. And in order to claim your prize, you need to be present at the end of the webinar when we announce. So our team are going to draw two names, and at the end, we're going to announce those winners. Fourthly, I would ask if you can just keep your line muted. We've gone ahead and muted all of the lines, but just for the benefit of everybody who's listening today, if you can just keep your line muted through the whole webinar, we would greatly appreciate that. And lastly is this webinar is being recorded. So if you are wanting to rewatch it or share it with anybody after, we are going to post it to our YouTube channel. And that'll be available in the next day or two. So you can check out our YouTube channel for this recording. So with that, I want to introduce Terri Calvert. Terri, thanks so much for joining us today. I am really excited about this conversation. Over the last year and a half or so, we've got to know each other a little bit around a project that our team has worked on with you and your organization. And so we're grateful for you joining us today. And I guess to kick things off, I would love it if you could introduce yourself, introduce your organization, and just introduce who you are to all of those who are participating today.
Great, thanks, Scott. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to share our experience. It had lots of ups and downs and has ended in a very positive way. So for myself, from a young age, I've always had an interest in working with people and supporting others with diverse abilities. So I started out by getting my diploma in early childhood education with special needs certification. And I worked in various inclusive childcare settings. Through that, I progressed to more senior roles within the childcare field. And in 2009, I landed here at the BC Centre for Ability in a position with the program I'm currently with, but just with a line staff position with the Vancouver Supported Child Development Program. So within my position here, I gained more knowledge and experience. I took leadership courses and not-for-profit management courses and progressed to my current position as the leader of the Vancouver and Burnaby Supported Child Development Programs. So our agency, the BC Centre for Ability, we've been providing a wide range of services to children, youth, and adults with diverse abilities in BC since it was established in 1969. So it was established by a group of parents who wanted community and home-based settings services for their children rather than rehabilitation in hospital settings. So we, at this time, have 3 adult employment programs, and then the programs for children and youth, we provide a variety of them. We have the Early Intervention Therapies program, we have a school occupational therapy, community brain injury program, we've got key worker support services, our own Stepping Stones program, and then my Supported Child Development program. The Supported Child Development program, as you saw, they did highlight some of the things that we do, but we've got consultants that help childcare programs and families for children up to 12 years of age who live or attend a childcare program in Burnaby or Vancouver, and if they need some extra help being included in these childcare programs. So team members work with families and childcare staff to design support strategies for children's individual needs. We provide training, consultation, and resources to the childcare staff and help them develop inclusive principles and practice to enrich the experience for all children attending. We do provide service up to 19 years of age, and that's just supported on an individual basis. So I think that's a highlight of who I am, where I work, and sort of where we come from.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for that intro, Terri. So what I've heard is BC Centre for Ability run numerous programs. Your program, the Supported Child Development Program, is the first program that moved forward more than a year ago now with Salesforce. And so we have a variety of participants on this webinar today, some existing customers, some prospective customers, organizations that are looking to really understand a little more in terms of what that journey was like. So what I'd love to do is really look back at what were some of the challenges that you had, talk about those experiences, what are some of the gains and the wins that have been achieved, and then we can look out into the future in terms of what might be coming next. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about some of the we'll call them challenges. What was life like before Salesforce? And so I'd love if you could dive in a little deeper in terms of how your program works, how you're serving clients, and what that looked like if we go back a few years ago.
Okay. So, I mean, one of the big challenges were referrals to our programs, and including like families signing consent forms. So we were only able to receive these through mail or fax or in person, and to maintain confidentiality. So it was time consuming for families to refer to our program in this way. It was often, families could call in, but it was challenging, and there was barriers to people referring to our service. In signing consent forms, when we did them in the mail with families, we had to send them back 2 or 3 times because they weren't completed correctly. And, often consents were out of date before we even had them signed off. Another area was we had data in multiple places. We had Excel spreadsheets, we had a database, we had a paper client file, and there was also no link from our website to like anything program related. Reporting requirements was another challenge that just was time consuming for us. To enter our direct time, like our statistics, the system we were using was cumbersome. It was out of date. We weren't able to get it brought up to date. So staff had used a time consuming process to enter their statistics. And then when we had to do the report out to our funder, we had to manually enter data. We had to remove some data. So it wasn't an efficient process at all. And if we wanted to report something different to the funder, if we were doing sort of a different way of our service and we wanted to highlight that to them, we would put in a request, and it could take 6 to 12 months to like create a new report for something for us to be able to pull the data. So those are sort of like the highlights of challenges that we've had in previous years.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting, and I recall when I first met the organization, and speaking with yourself and with your executive director, Joshua. I started to hear about these challenges that you were facing, and the challenges that I was hearing were really not all that uncommon from what other organizations face. And for in my experience working with nonprofit organizations, these technology systems that they are working with were put in place, in many cases years and years before, and as a new need popped up, or as a new program popped up, they would scramble to put together a solution to address the needs of that program. And so what I'm hearing is you had many systems that you were working in. Some of these systems were not all that flexible in terms of adapting to the new needs or the new reporting requirements. So thanks for sharing that, because I know that is a very, very common pain point that organizations are facing. It's interesting when we think about this digitization process. So I'd love to just dive in a little more detail to one of the areas that you spoke to, and you talked about the intake process and what that was like. It was quite manual. Sounds like it was very labor intensive in terms of paper forms going back and forth, so love to hear a little bit about what that process is looking like today, and if you can expand on that, and even some of the other areas that you had highlighted as pain points in terms of what that looks like today.
Yeah, the intake is our biggest success. I mean, it is time saving for families, for any community support services that also do referrals, and for our staff. So families can now complete a referral form on our website, and it collects some initial information, and that information gets put right into Salesforce. So their client files already started right off the bat. So they're not having to repeat this information. In the past, it was 2 or 3 times. Sometimes they had to repeat information. So now the client file started, the intake consultant can reach out to the family right away. And we've also created a parent or client portal that the families can access some basic information on their client's file, but we can share documents securely and confidentially with them. So before the consultant even reaches out to have an initial intake meeting, we can share some program information, we can share the consent forms, all of this through the client portal. And then families sometimes fill it out ahead of time before the meeting, or we can have the initial meeting with the family and we can walk them through these documents. We can support them in signing them, making sure the consents are signed off correctly and we know who we have permission to speak to. So, I mean, for me, that was a huge, it's just been like, it's been so changing for the consultants that they just have way more time to actually spend with the clients and supporting them with what they need or out in the childcare programs. We do still have a few families who aren't able to access the client portal, and so we provide services as usual. We're able to meet them in person or do our intake over the phone, and just be able to mail the documents as needed. So we have there's a few families that we do need to keep that service for, but it's been really accepted by most families. So is there any other questions on that piece? I mean, the client portal is just something I can't say enough about, but Scott, I didn't know if you have anything else before I move on to the other things.
Yeah, I'd love to just understand, you spoke to what that experience is like for yourself and your consultants. What's the feedback that your clients have given? Because they were traditionally using paper and fax-based processes. What's the feedback been from your clients?
It's been really positive. As I say, we've got a few that, aren't quite able to do it, but like 90 to 95% of the families have been thrilled. I mean, a few of them have said it's about time. I mean, it's like moving into the modern world is part of the reason we did it. We've got younger and younger families coming on board, and this is the kind of way they want to interact with us. You know, they want to be able to receive things and look over documents when they get home from work, like times that work for them, that they have time to go through and send it back to us. So it's really meeting their needs in busy lives that these families have. And so, yeah, they've appreciated it. And even community partners, we do allow community partners to support families to refer. They can refer themselves, and they've found the referral process so much easier as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. What if you can give us another example of some of the benefits of Salesforce?
Yeah, we've been able to reduce the number of places that our data is held. So we eliminated our client paper file. I wouldn't say we're 100% paperless yet, but we're moving there. But we don't, any new clients, we're not doing a paper file for them. And so we've got all of our client data in Salesforce. We did have like a program drive before, and we've moved to SharePoint, and it's just a place where we have like draft documents or supporting documents. And we've gotten rid of most of our Excel spreadsheets. So that's sort of been progress as well. Salesforce has really been a catch-all for us. We've been able to put all of our data in there and have like one true source of the information. The other piece that we sort of spoke about before was the reporting, or that I mentioned before. And so within Salesforce, we're able to now pull reports to show our funders our statistics, the great work we're doing, how many training sessions we're providing. And we can just do that like a couple of clicks, and we've got this report. If we want to report on something different, we can create a new report ourselves. We can edit a current report. So, that's just been, we've been able to be much more responsive to the needs of our funders, or we've got advisory committees for our programs. I've got a meeting coming tomorrow, and I'm excited to show them dashboards. Dashboards is something that you can create from reports, and in a real visual way, you can see like how on target you are. And it's just a nice way to highlight like what you're doing in the program from these reports.
That's awesome. One of the questions that I hear often when we're speaking with prospective clients that are considering, how should they or how could they improve their processes, and how might Salesforce help them? One of the questions that often comes up is around reporting. And, I think oftentimes the paradigm that they're looking at reporting through is or the lens they're looking through is the tools that they currently have. And so it's exciting to hear that you and the team at BC Center for Ability has not only been able to easily run reports, but it's exciting to hear that you're creating reports on the fly and modifying those reports as your reporting needs change. So that's pretty exciting. A question for you in terms of, what was the impetus for digitally transforming? So you had described that you had, the organization has been around many years, and your program has been around many years, and you had tools and processes, but what was really driving the need to change? And if you can just help us understand what that process was like, and why last year, or why, when you made the decision to do this, why did you make it then? And if you could share that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's a few things. First and foremost, our clients, like our families, were really pushing for being able to share documents with us. We receive so much information from families and support services through emails, and it doesn't maintain the client confidentiality that we want to. So, the clients were the main reason. And looking at our intake process, which we spoke about, it was so cumbersome, and repeating information multiple times is not great for families or for our consultants. Our reporting requirements were growing from our funder. They were asking for more data, and we weren't able to be responsive. Taking 6 to 12 months to have a new report created for us is not feasible in being able to be responsive to the funder's requests. My staff often say, way we can create more time for our clients is to make our processes, or the completion of forms, or how they always say, all the paperwork you make us do, if we can make that more efficient, then we've got more time to do the work that we're actually here, we want to be doing. So that was a huge part. This one, we had this one form that I know when we worked with closely with Matt when we were developing our system, we've got a triplicate form, which some, lots of people who are maybe not as old as you and I, Scott, they haven't heard of these triplicate forms. So we had this form, it's been around forever. And so when we go to a childcare program to do a visit and we want to leave a note for the family, we have this form, we fill out how the visit went, we give some suggestions and feedback, and we leave one copy for the family, one for the childcare program, and we bring one back. Well, at a busy childcare program, often these forms get shoved in the bottom of a lunch bag and the family may not even end up seeing it, or we've got 2-parent families and we're not able to give one to both parents. So this was a really big pain point that we were able to, with this system, we created a triplicate form online so consultants could use their laptops, complete that after the visit, and then upload it onto the parent portal. And then parents in the evening when they're home from work, they can open that up and see how their child's day went and receive the feedback from the consultant. So it's an important information sharing piece that we had that just, it was clunky and it wasn't working the way that it should be in this sort of point of time. So,
yeah, that's awesome. That's a great example of older processes, being modernized or digitized. So, so thank you for that, Terri. Would love to hear a little bit from you in terms of you spoke to just time savings and efficiency. I would assume then with that are some cost savings. What, if you can speak a little bit to the direction and growth of your program in terms of, with now having Salesforce, has that enabled you to hire more people, to to slow down the need for hiring people? What impact has that had to your staff?
Yeah, well, I mean, consultants have been able to take on more clients because the time that they're spending on the paperwork or the, those processes taking less time. So they're able to take on more clients. And we've actually been able to reduce by one full admin staff that we had because there's just not as much administrative work because the system has removed a bunch of steps from our processes. And I mean, that was a highlight of digitizing. It is just even reviewing all your processes, taking the time to kind of, a little bit painfully at times, but go through everything and see where you can streamline. And, all of that really has made it more efficient. And you're right. I mean, costs of staff go up every year and our government contracts don't always quite meet that. So to be able to have consultants take on a few more clients and reduce by one admin staff has really made a difference for our bottom line.
Interesting. So let's transition to talking a little bit about the experience. So we've talked about what life was like before, what life is like now, and oftentimes participants on these webinars are interested in hearing that. But they're also interested in hearing some of the more nitty gritty in terms of what the experience was like. So would love to get a piece of advice from you on what you learned, what that experience was like implementing a solution and replacing your existing system. And if there was one thing that jumps to mind, what would that be?
I think it would be ensuring you have enough resources to successfully achieve this. And this is like talking about the financial resources to support physical and digital needs. So for us, we actually didn't have all our staff having laptops. So we had to get laptops for all staff so they would be able to, use the system the way it's intended, being out in the community, being able to be more versatile with their work. And we also, when we did the training, so everyone had a laptop during our training, but we realized at that point that we had 2 staff that had actually never used a laptop in their lives. So, you know, in hindsight, giving them a little bit of experience before that actual training day would have been beneficial. Our agency also, we had some laptops, but again, it was maybe, you know, a third to a half of the organization had laptops. So we were all in a meeting room and we actually didn't have the Wi-Fi capacity to like successfully navigate this training. So, you know, our IT guy worked his magic and we did make it through the day, but some of those things that you just don't think about when you have been more paper-based and, you know, computers at stations, was a piece that was something I would definitely consider.
Yeah, interesting challenges. I mean, not only has your organization replaced your legacy technology and some of these processes with a cloud-based solution, you've modernized the organization with your hardware as well. So that's a good piece of advice. In terms of you know, tips for those who are participating here, in terms of improving adoption among your team and how you dealt with that. So if you could, you know, share a little bit about maybe the profile of your staff and what are some of the techniques that you used to enhance the adoption of this new technology?
Well, I think first and foremost, we did have the buy-in of, you know, our executive director and other program leaders right off the bat. So I think having that buy-in from the top is really important. And then we got people excited and involved in the process early on. We talked about this new cloud-based system. We had some people come into some early meetings to give some feedback as we reviewed processes. And those were people that we had as our champions. You can't have everyone in all the meetings, but I think there's key people and not just leadership that you need to have involved and get them excited. And they're going to share that with their colleagues. So I think that was really key. Having staff a part of their process, that's how you're more easily going to get their buy-in. And the more visual demonstrations you can do, the better. I mean, as we created some different parts, again, we didn't do it for the whole team right off the bat, but we had some key people some intake people when we were developing the client page, and people could come in and have a look at that and give a little bit of feedback. You know, we were thoughtful with them and we're clear that, you know, this is just a viewing time and we'll take your feedback at the next meeting. Like, I think you want to be upfront with staff, but I think the more you can get them involved in a meaningful way, the more you're going to get them excited and on board.
Yeah, that's great, Terri. I guess in the timing of when BC Centre for Ability and specifically the SCD program went live with Salesforce, I'm sure was not planned around COVID. And, you know, I recall, you know, hearing from yourself and from your executive director, Joshua, you know, back in March of last year and in the months that followed, just the impact that Salesforce was having. Can you speak a little bit to that in terms of what that transition looked like from, you know, being in the office primarily to now being at home?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't able to predict the pandemic, that's for sure. And we were just launching Salesforce at the time. So staff were still learning. We were able to have done some in-person training, and then people were at home. So there were some challenges with people having to continue to learn virtually, but really being able to support families through the portal, being able to continue our services virtually, like outweighed that completely. And we were very lucky. I mean, because we were the first program to come on board and the only program at the very beginning of the pandemic, we saw the other departments having challenges with sharing information with families, having consent signed. And we didn't have those challenges because we were, you know, on the Salesforce system and we didn't need to worry about that. So we managed with a skeleton admin at the center, and everyone else was able to safely work at home and continue business as usual with families and the childcare programs who were open at that time. You know, I think that being able to adjust to the pandemic, just having learned this new system, it also gave my staff the sort of encouragement and the resilience to be able to learn other new systems. I mean, we'd never done Teams meetings or Zoom meetings as a team, and people like Sean, people figured it out and learned it. And we do training for childcare staff that was all in person. Again, we'd never done virtual training before, and it took us a little bit to get going with that, but you know, we only did training for half of the year this year, and we are almost meeting our target. So, you know, I think all those were really great impacts from moving to this right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Timing is sometimes everything, and by the sounds of it, your program has successfully navigated this last year, which is really cool. And I think it's worth noting that since your program went live and launched with Salesforce, there have been other program areas within the organization that have also. Can you speak at all to that? I know your responsibility is with SCD, but you know, now that there are some other programs within the organization using Salesforce, you know, can you speak to that experience that they're having?
Yeah, I mean, the brain injury program came on shortly after us. They just weren't quite as quick as we were. And so they came on and they've had great success. They're a little bit of a smaller program, so they didn't have as many sort of staff training pieces, but they provided the support and, you know, successfully launched it. And then we've got most of our other programs are going through the process to move over to Salesforce. And, you know, the benefit is that we really did try to think ahead for some of the bigger picture pieces of the transformation to Salesforce, like our statistics. As an agency, when we were creating them for supported child development, we made sure we worked together as a whole agency and made sure that it was going to meet the needs of everyone. So, you know, that was a piece that now no one else is having to develop the statistics piece because it's already good and it's working for us, it's working for brain injury. And so far, no one has any concerns about that. So that's another piece that I think we continue to work together. There's a few hiccups along the way where somebody else is wanting to have something slightly different and it does affect the other programs, but you know, we're a very collaborative agency and we're able to work together through that. So that's just been another piece about just to go back to having the buy-in from the whole agency and knowing that this was the path that we were taking, that we were all coming on board, even though it was just SCD in the beginning and then brain injury shortly after, all the program leaders were in support of this and willing to participate in any kind of sessions that we asked them to. So.
Yeah, interesting. So what I'm hearing there is that you now have one, at least across the programs that you described, you have one common technology platform in Salesforce, and there are some efficiencies now across these programs using a single tool. In terms of, because I'm sure that there are folks on this webinar that you know, run multiple programs within their organizations. Is it fair to say that you would have a client that may receive services across multiple programs? And you know, what is that experience like in terms of sharing information with other team members?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that, you know, we did want this platform to be able to do for us, because you're right, we could have one client that could be in many of our children's services programs and then could move up to our adult programs. So what we've got is we've got, you know, a main file that has like basic information, families, names, address, like all sort of that kind of stuff that everyone has access to see. And if somebody in my program, if the family lets us know they've changed their address, then we can update that and it's updated for everyone. So the family doesn't have to repeat this information multiple times. And then we can all have our own program client files. So, you know, our program goes into childcare programs, provide consultation services and training. We've got our information separate. The social work program does different services for the family. They've got their own program client file that they see as a separate entity. So you're able to have sharing, but also have some walls up so that you can keep your own privacy within your own programs as well.
Okay, yeah, that's That's helpful. And just, I mean, from just even that, the example you've shared about updating an address once, I mean, not only is that a time savings for the BC Centre for Ability staff, but you know, as a parent or guardian who's having to communicate that same information over and over again, that's got to be a good experience for your clients. So thank you for that example. A couple of other questions I have here before we get ready to move into the Q&A. So just again, if anyone does have any questions for Terri, if you can post those into the chat, we'll get to those in a few minutes. I would love to hear, Terri, in terms of key takeaways. So key takeaways in this, you know, digitization of your delivery model. What are a few of these key takeaways that you were hoping to achieve? And then maybe if you could even speak to takeaways that that came as a result of implementing Salesforce that you may not have been expecting.
I mean, I think the biggest one is staff and families are resilient. I mean, you've got staff that are at times overworked, the caseloads are large, and families dealing with so much in trying to, you know, work and support their child who does have diverse abilities. So, you know, it's a lot to take on to learn something new, and they really were both were so resilient and able to achieve this challenge. With training and support, anyone can learn something new, even technology. We've got some staff that have been around for a while and didn't use technology in their day-to-day life at work or personally as much. And, you know, they've really shone, and, you know, they've needed a little more support along the way, and we've provided that. But yeah, that's been a really a key takeaway that's been inspiring for other staff to see. I think the one that I kind of didn't, maybe I should have, but I didn't really see is that just like there's so many ways to improve services and create efficiencies, but you really just need to make the time. And in not-for-profits, we never have time to just like, let's review all of our processes. But because we were sort of forced to do this in moving to this new system, then we really did need to sit down and take the time. And some of them were just improved by like taking a step back and saying, why are we doing things this way? So that was one I think I wasn't really expecting. And then the piece that we were hoping to expect and we've seen is that spending some money up front can save you money in the long run. So, you know, if you're able to have some dollars for an investment in something like this, it can save you money in the long run from being like a paper-based agency and moving to a digitized service delivery model. There definitely are cost savings. So that was one we expected and did see the results.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you expect cost savings and then you achieve that's right where you want to be. So yeah. Great to hear that was the case. Terri, last question that I have for you before we move to questions from the participants is what are the trends? What are some of the trends that you're seeing, you know, in the industry as you look forward?
Well, I mean, we've mentioned him a few times here, our amazing executive director, Josh Myers. He, you know, we're led by him and he helps our agency to be leaders in our industry. So we like to say that we set the trend. So I would say moving to a digitized service delivery model to allow flexibility for both your clients and your staff is what the industry should be moving towards.
Yeah, well, Josh is a great leader. I remember some conversation with Josh very early into the relationship that our organization has with the CFA, and I remember him saying to me that you know, there's many organizations out there that provide similar services to the community, but there often are a finite number of dollars available. And so while these agencies and organizations work together in the community, there is at times competition in terms of funding and just the vision that Josh has for just delivering everything with excellence is amazing to see. So I would concur. Josh is a great guy and has certainly led the organization in this direction. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. Terri, we have a few questions that have come in.
Okay.
So the first one that has come in here is from Cassandra. So she says, thanks for this. The question is, we have some concerns about adoption of a new system when our data input is already an issue for staff. Similar to your organization, we have multiple places where we currently do data entry, and because of the time it takes staff, they often don't complete their data entry. We're concerned about data quality, or we are concerned data quality won't improve just because we have a new system, which I totally concur with. A new system does not necessarily mean data quality will improve. And so can you just speak to what that was like for staff, what you've done to improve data quality, and was that Salesforce itself, or was that more an approach that was taken by yourself and the team in terms of enabling people to improve their process around data quality?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a couple things. Like, we did look at all the data that we were putting in and reviewed the need of it. I mean, there was some things we were collecting and we weren't reporting it out. Like, we did reflect on, do we need to be actually collecting all this data? And then the piece that Salesforce did improve with the ones we decided, yes, we need, yes, we're reporting on, yes, we're required to report on, putting it all into Salesforce and just making it more user-friendly. So this is where getting some buy-in from the staff, finding out what the pain points are, what are the challenges, like why is the data entry so cumbersome? One piece that we have is we stat a lot, as I mentioned, like direct client statistics. So when a consultant is working in a client file, they're adding some notes, they're updating the client file, whatever they're doing in there, there's a button that they can click on, and then that takes them right to the stat form. And so either if they haven't made it for the day, it creates it for the day, or if they've already got one going for the day, it just takes them to that. They can enter their time really efficiently. So there are systems within Salesforce to make your data entry even quicker and more efficient. But then it was also just the reviewing of why we were collecting the data that we were collecting, and was there a way we could combine some of it? Did we need to collect all of it? So I think, did that answer the question? Circling back to the...
Well, certainly for myself, I think that's super helpful. I recall, during the project, there was a lot of work that was done with your staff and your team, really around getting buy-in to why you were doing this, and where staff have input, there's more ownership and a greater response when the system goes live for using that, because they've contributed to that. And not to put words in your mouth, but certainly what I heard you say earlier was with new hardware, with laptops, the ability, I would imagine, just to be anywhere and update these records was now possible, where before staff had to be back in the office to do that. So enabling or equipping staff with the right tools certainly reduces those barriers that maybe they faced previously. So, so that's great. Thank you for that. Next question here is from Leanne. Leanne is asking, going paperless sounds amazing. How does that work when you are required to keep files for years into the future? Do you have any requirements around your documentation, and how does that work with this system?
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, we do, so moving forward, any new clients that we took on like March 2020, we didn't create a paper file, and everything that we would have had in the paper file, we have in Salesforce. So that data will be kept there for the length of time that's required. We still do have paper files for our previous clients, and we store them at Iron Mountain, a place here that we do that with. So we're kind of in the middle. I think it will be a long time before we're completely paperless, and we did decide not to upload all of that information. We just kept those previous paper files. But yeah, I guess we're essentially saying our digital client file is replacing everything that's in that paper file. And then that's how we would meet those requirements of keeping the data for however many years you're required to.
Right, right. So there's to expand a little bit in terms of how Salesforce handles that, really there's no limit to the number of records that you can keep in Salesforce. Attaching files, case notes, any of that information, once that is in Salesforce, that is there for forever unless it's removed intentionally by the organization. So you've gone through this. You created a line in the sand where you said, going from this date forward, we're going to create any new client files digitally, and we're going to store those digitally. For any historical clients that were still receiving services, a record or a case record or a client record was created, and you began from that point forward capturing their information digitally, but you've also retained their historical information that may have been on paper. So that's great, and that really is part of the planning process, and really understanding, what are the requirements around data retention, and so certainly there's an answer or solution to that problem. So Leanne, thanks for your question. Another question here is for your funders, has their experience and or expectation changed with the new and improved reporting capabilities?
I wouldn't say it hasn't changed so far. I mean, they've been impressed. Both, we do have different contact people for our two communities, Vancouver and Burnaby. And so we've done demonstrations for both communities, and they were super impressed and excited about the information that we could provide and how quickly we could be responsive if they needed some data to take somewhere to show something. So they haven't increased their expectations, but I wouldn't put it past them for that to come in the future. But yeah, so they've just been very, very impressed by what we've been doing, and have actually asked if it's okay for them to share this information with other programs similar to ours. So I know that they've also been talking to other agencies about it.
Okay, awesome. I think we have time for one more question, and Laura has posted a question here. Terri, pardon me, let me try that again. Hey, Terri, are you able to share your experience with data migration from your old system to your new system?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that we really had to think about. So instead of talking about deciding on which client files we were going to leave in paper and when we were going to move forward, it was a similar process. So I think that we really worked closely with Belmar on this and got their advice on, what was prudent to do. And we did a combination of some like manual data migration, where we pulled our data off our previous server and we put it into some spreadsheets. You can probably speak to it more, Scott, and then Belmar uploaded that data for us. So we were thoughtful about how many years we wanted to bring over, how much data we wanted to bring over. There were some pieces that I thought was really useful for consultants to do a bit of manual entry to learn the system. So, like the date the most recent consent was signed, we had them go in and do that. So we made sure it was accurate and they got some practice in the system. But definitely this is an area that was very new to me, and it was a little more time consuming. We had to put some thought in, but I worked closely with our IT director and Scott and Matt as well to, determine what best met our needs. So yeah, I don't know if you want to say a little bit more about that, Scott.
Yeah, I think, Terri, how you've described that is awesome. Data migration is, of course, an essential part of moving from an older system to, in this case, Salesforce. And so I would concur there was a thoughtful process that your team went through to determine what were the capabilities of the capabilities and, say, limitations of the older system that you had in terms of getting data out, and then really preparing that data to move it into Salesforce. So there's a well understood process for doing that, but it certainly is something that what I'm hearing required input from your team, input from your IT staff, and and as well some input from our team to take that final data that was provided and move it into Salesforce. So great question, Laura. Thanks for that. And with that, let's see. One last question, and then we'll move to our raffle. Question here from Ross is around Trailhead info and any tips that you would have on data quality. And Ross has included a link here. So it looks like there's actually, this is maybe more of a response that Ross is sharing with everybody on this call. So Terri, I actually won't get you to answer that one because, okay. And for the benefit of those who don't know what Trailhead is a learning platform that Salesforce has developed and provides to the community. So if you are interested in learning more about what Trailhead is, you can learn all kinds of things. I mean, there's so much information. The sky's the limit in terms of what you can learn about Salesforce using Trailhead. And maybe just to wrap up this thought, it's onboarding and training new users to Salesforce, requires a few different approaches or techniques. And in the case of Terri and your team, there was some, at the time, we were able to do some in-person training where our staff could actually come into your office and work with your team. And you spoke earlier to some of the Wi-Fi challenges that were maybe unforeseen. Now we're providing training remotely to our clients, but Salesforce also have just some amazing resources available. So if you're interested, you can check out the link that Ross has included in the chat. So Terri, I want to say a huge thank you for this. We are going to move to our raffle. And so through this, over this last 50 minutes, I've had somebody on our team message me that we have 2 winners. So again, I'm hoping that they're on this call still. So Deborah Marino, are you on the call? And you can either come off mute and say, yes, I'm here, or
I'm here.
All right, Deborah, fantastic. Well, congratulations. You are going to receive a swag box from us. And so we'll get in contact with you to get your information. So thank you. And the next winner is Renee Blake. Renee, are you still on with us?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
You were on mute. Absolutely, no problem. Awesome. So Renee, congratulations. And so to both Deborah and Renee, thank you guys for joining us today. Just to wrap things up, a couple of things that I want to just speak to. BC Center for Ability and Terri and her team have just achieved incredible transformation over the last year and a half. And it's been amazing to see just what they've been able to achieve. And this is certainly something that is available to any organization that is considering Salesforce. And so if you're interested in learning more about this, we would love to have a conversation with you, and we can dive a little deeper to understand what your needs are and how you may get to the same point that Terri and the BC Center for Ability team have gotten to. Terri, again, I want to say a huge thank you to you for participating today. These are only possible when we have guests like yourself who can speak to their experience. So a huge thank you for your time today. I want to just make a quick announcement. We are endeavoring to do a monthly webinar and really showcasing different clients that we're working with, learning about what their experiences have been. And today's focus has been mostly around program management, and which is a very, very common use case for nonprofits that are looking at Salesforce. Next month, in April, we are going to host a webinar looking at donor management and fundraising. So if you're interested in that topic, stay tuned. You can visit our website to learn more. We will send out an email as well, communicating the date of our next webinar. But donor management and fundraising, which is it's either program management or donor management. It's 1 and 2. They're kind of neck and neck in terms of the requests that clients are making for how they're using Salesforce. And so with that, my reminder is that we are recording this. We're going to post it to YouTube, and it'll be on our YouTube channel here shortly. And so with that, everyone, thank you guys for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun to do this. And Terri, again, thank you so much for all of the insight. It was really cool to hear from you on what you guys are doing at BC Center for Ability. So thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, you guys, have a great day.